guys, so thanks for coming. So is everybody here planning to become a registrar someday? Okay, so the tricky part about the registrar's test is I think a lot of people struggle with they don't know what to study, right? You're not quite sure where to begin. I've taken both the rabbit and the cavy registrar's test, successfully passed on my first time around. And then I've also given the test quite a few times. I've had a lot of people ask, like, you know, when they're done, they're like, you send it in, and then I say, what was confusing? And then I ask people of my friends that, what were questions that you remember that stumped you? What were things? And I started compiling a list, and I've been kind of working on this for a while, because one thing, click, ding, one thing that I feel like our struggle is in our area of the country, I don't think we're making registrars and judges fast enough for the amount of shows that we're putting on every weekend. I am fortunate that I get to judge a lot of shows, but I'm getting tired. So we need people to replace, so we have lots of people that are still judging shows, and we can have different opinions. So some housekeeping, I need to tell you that my presentation is not endorsed by the ARBA whatsoever. For their safety and my safety, they did not do anything. The objective today is to just be a guide on how to focus your studying for the registrar's test. So if you can kind of focus on the things I'm going to give you, you have a better chance of passing. Now I'm going to tell you we all study differently, but the more focused you can get, the better. You will need to use the most up-to-date version of the ARBA standard. So if your standard that you have, you bought like 2 years ago, it is actually pretty outdated at this point. There's a lot of updates. I know I just got a new one from Willis, Plank on Plate Cage Display. So they have the most up-to-date. If you're here at the show this weekend and then you want to purchase one, that's pretty up there. Registrars, genetics. Okay, so this, and I will say this presentation can become outdated pretty quickly as the standards committee approves and changes things. What is acceptable and what breeds we have and varieties we have will eventually become outdated. And the goal is to make studying easier for you, not to make the process easier. So as much as I want to see more registrars and more judges behind the table here in our district and in our area, I don't want to just have warm bodies. I want people not to just study to pass the test. I want you to study to be good. What that means is when you get this passed, every person, every judge brings a little bit something different and valued behind the table. So when you start to work with them, choose wisely. Don't choose on people that are just going to pass you, because we know that's out there, right? We're not choosing our friends. We're going to choose people that really make us think through our mindset and really just, that will be honest with us, right? Like, if we don't deserve it, they're not just going to pass us to pass us. Okay, you need to find knowledgeable individuals. So why do you want to take the test? Some things that help you with the registrar's test is it's the first step to becoming a judge. I know a lot of kids were probably like me, like when you went to your first show and then you keep going to shows, you're like, this is what I want to be a judge. Like, I can do that. And then you can register, good news, you can register your own rabbits. So you don't got to drag them out to shows and try to do all the things. It's a great credential for those of you that want to judge fairs in Michigan and Indiana, Ohio. There are a lot of fairs that don't require ARBA judges to judge them, but this gives you like a credential that shows like you do know something of what you're doing. It helps for pay for your rabbit shows adventures. You make $3 off of each rabbit you register. So it is beneficial in that sense. And then it also, I feel like the biggest thing is it grows your knowledge in the hobby. You won't become stagnant in what you know about rabbits or cavies, whichever test you're going to take. Ding. So requirements, you got to be an ARBA member for 3 consecutive years. The cool part is your age doesn't matter. Okay, so you can be the youth breeders. You can take this. You can become a registrar. You just got to request an application. Your application to become a registrar form from the ARBA. Collect 20 adult signatures, complete the form, mail in your dollars, and then complete the entire process within 2 years from start to finish, right? And then when you pass, you're going to work under 3 judges and 1 registrar. And the focus of this is not to be really your knowledge on how to judge rabbits. It's how to find disqualifications, how to identify different varieties and what each of the varieties per breed should have for eye color, toenail color, markings, all of that for showable stuff. And it's just your knowledge and faults and DQs. You got to gain the endorsement of 2 of the 3 judges. You don't got to pass all 3, but you do got to pass 2, and you have to pass the registrar. And then you also, this is the biggest thing, you have to get the show official's permission. Sometimes you just show up, think you're working. Nope, you got to ask for permission from the superintendent if you can work first. Just don't show up and hope. Then once you pass the test, pass these, pay your fee, you get to get a new number. You get a registrar's number. So what it takes to pass, the written exam is 70, the oral is 70, and then you have an apprenticeship of passing 2 judges and 1 registrar, but you got to work with 3. So, right, you only have to be a C- to get through this. When and where to test, you get to choose 2 options when you fill that form out. I recommend picking people near you, okay? Because and they must have had their license for 5 years, but I recommend picking people near you because I think the worst place to test is at a rabbit show. We all have way too many things to do. There's a lot of noise. Sometimes you'll be taking it, and there's so much going around you. Do it. I like it when people just come to my house, sit at my dining room table, take the test. It's quiet there, minus my 2 dogs. But this is the best part, is to find someone near you, but ask them first, right? You can take the test anywhere, take it at someone's house, and then you contact them to arrange the testing date. But just, again, be sure the judge is okay with wanting to give you the test first before you put them down to someone. The oral exam preparations, you're going to examine, your examining judges chooses these questions when it becomes the registrar, so they may be about the registration process, they may be about breed and variety, specific things. You will need to demonstrate that you know how to use the clamp tattoo set to circle R, and I recommend asking the examining judge ahead of time, how do you want me to prepare for the oral exam? Because people get to it and they're like, I don't really know what I do. Me, I make you clamp it. When you're at my house, I just kind of talk about, I more so like give you some scenarios. What do you think you're going to do if you have a rabbit that comes to you? What would you do with this, right? I just want to make it confident that you can play the part in the role of being able to tell somebody, no, you can't register this rabbit, because some people are not good at confrontation, because some people can get super upset about it, right? So some study materials, the registrar study guide, make sure you have the latest version that's up that they update with all the new breeds and things. You need the newest ARBA standard of perfection. You need to have a copy of the ARBA show rules, which are that's in the general portions question. So it's not just breeds. You're going to have to know show rules about the process of registering rabbits. And then the instructions to registrar portion, it's on the ARBA website. You can find it there, okay? Ding. So advice from a teacher. So helping kids pass tests is what I do for a living. You do not overthink the test. Most wrong answers you can eliminate that I have found on both the test versions that I have taken. So be relaxed, because really when you focus on this test, there are some things you're like, that doesn't even make sense. Cross it out. Don't even get it in your thing. Find the answers. When you're taking a test, find the answers that make 0 sense and get rid of them, so they're not part of your thought process, right? Study for short periods of time each day. Crash studying is not a super effective studying method. It's something that you got to do for a while. Don't cram study. Study at shows. I think this is very important. Have your standard, have questions going out, and watch breeds you do not know under quality judges, right? So as judges, there was things we're really good at, and there's things that we're not good at. Okay, I've said in previous presentations that there is no expert judge in all the breeds. We're constantly getting new breeds, so there are breeds that we are not comfortable with. We're not the ones to sit and watch, but if we look like we judge those a lot, you know we're good at whatever breed it is. Watch those people and look for things that they disqualify, and it's okay if they say like, I'm disqualifying this animal for a split penis. Be like, can I see that? Can you show me what you mean? Most judges would love to show you, and then especially if they DQ for like a wonky color, there are some judges that are super good at color. And those are the people, like if they're disqualifying dwarfs or Hollands or whatever they're doing, something with a lot of colors in it, and you don't quite understand, ask them. So you can see it firsthand, and then it makes a lot more sense. And then study what would be important to know as to register an animal. You don't need super specific or breed specific information. It doesn't matter a whole lot if how many points are on anything. It doesn't matter the weights of things. But you do need to know, because in the registrar's guide we don't have any weights on the test, but because you can use the book. But you don't need the super specific, you need breed specific disqualifications and faults to know the difference between the two. So I will say save brain space. There's a lot of things that people try to study and I'm like, this is pointless. You do not need to know the weights, they're not on the test. So don't feel like you got to study the weights. You could ask me the weights of anything outside of my breeds, I wouldn't even know anyways, because I just go to the book, and I probably couldn't even tell you the Champagne's weights, because I don't know either. And I wrote those, okay? Because I got a book, okay? I just go to the book. You do not need to know the point schedules. Now remember, this is for the Registrar test. You don't need to know the point schedules, so don't study those. Do not hyper-focus on details that are not necessary. You don't need to know on like smoke pearl, whatever, the undercolor. You don't need to know that very specific stuff. Like, don't open a color guide and feel like you got to memorize everything in the color guide. Big important things is just know what eye color goes with things. There's a lot of eye color questions on it, right? Undercolor varieties that are regular DQs, those are things you're going to need to focus on. And then don't focus on tricky details. Things that you're like, oh, I feel like that'd be a trick question. Because even though there are people that will say the Registrar test and the Judges test has some trick questions, I will say in the times that I remember taking them, because what I did when I took my test is I went back and I wrote down those answers that I could remember that I was like, I have no idea what this means. Because I was expecting to fail both, because that's how I operate in my head. I passed both, fortunately. I would say they're poorly worded. I wouldn't say they're trick questions. I would say they were not written by people who make tests for a living, okay? So you will need to know breed-specific disqualifications. If that DQ is specific to that breed, you'll need to know all the general disqualifications in the front of the book, and you need to know really what's the difference between a DQ and a fault, okay? Recognize varieties and breeds. So you need to know what's showable in the Angoras, you need to know what's showable in the Holland-Loppers, right? And then just breed basic information. Why I say breed basic is because like the mini lop has no breed specific disqualification. So you need to know just like the generals of a mini lop. Ding! Okay, so are you ready to dig in? This looks like you, right? I love it. All right. Ding! So some things you need to do, you're going to need to make some lists. The good news is if you have the copies of my PowerPoint, you already have them. So you're going to memorize the list and practice as you go through the color portion of the standard. Find similarities. That is key. There's a lot of similarities in our standard. List out all the ear length disqualifications on rabbits. So you know what breeds actually matter with ear length DQ, whether it's true length of max or length of minimum, okay? You need to know body types because it's going to ask you, some questions may say, describe the body type of an American. It might, so you need to know that it's mandolin body shape, whatever it is, right? Or like the Blanc de Hoto that disqualifies for mandolin body type, an excessively long shoulder. You need to be able to know that that's what they should and should not have. And know the difference of body disqualifications, eye colors, faults in the chinchilla breeds. And you have a slide for that too. So, ding! Make and study some breed flashcards. On your flashcard study, you need to have body types, showable varieties, just the breed-specific disqualifications of fur type. Here's the thing that's going to help you. If you just cut apart this PowerPoint, if you dig into it, you'll see that each breed, I've kind of made breed study guides for you. So let's get started on some of the breeds. This breed is the American, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Things that are important that you're going to see on the study guide in the American. You need to know that it's semi-arch or mandolin typed. Okay. You need to know that there's two varieties, blue and white, or blue and white. Now, if it's a dilute rabbit, so if you have blue rabbits, what eye color should they have?
Blue-gray.
Blue-gray. If you can remember that, if you can remember about dilutes, and they're probably not going to have, what kind of eye color most of the dilutes have, you're going to eliminate a lot of worry in your test. So, blue-gray, some breed-specific, the DQ for any white spots, sandy, rust, silver, gray tint, foreign colors. What's the biggest thing you can remember? Do you need to memorize all this?
No.
What's the common thing you can remember about the American? If it's blue, and there's a spot that's what?
White.
Not blue.
No.
Thumbs down. Okay? White for pink eyes. The DQ, if it's white, and it's got spots that are not white,
No color.
goodbye. You don't got to memorize all this wording. People get too caught up in memorizing this wording. It's not important. And then you need to know that they have flyback coats. Okay? So, important things to remember. I put it down here for each and every breed for you.
Oh.
Okay? Remember that white has pink eyes. Blue is a dark slate blue. And we DQ these things for extremely heavy bone. Okay? Ding! The AFL, the American Fuzzy Lap, what kind of body type? Compact, we don't have any body type disqualifications on the things. We need to know the varieties. And when I say varieties, don't get caught up in memorizing that they show in every single variety. Memorize the groups, okay? Because you're going to be able to eliminate most of it on the groups. So it accepts the agouti, the broken, the pointed, the white, the self, the shaded, the wideband. But in the tan group, you need to know it only accepts the odd hair. Okay? There's no ticked group, which means there's no steels. There's no frosteds yet, because they're working on their prize. Okay? But as soon as that happens, this PowerPoint's outdated. Okay? Pointeds can be in black, blue, chocolate, and lilac. So to ask you, you have a blue pointed fuzzy lop. I'm like, what am I talking about? Fuzzy lop. Could you register it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Same thing with Californians. We'll learn about that later. And then you're going to need to know breed-specific DQs, which fall into wool. So when you're thinking about wool, you're going to remember the fuzzy lop is 1.5 inches or under of coat. Okay. How do you remember that? They're like 1.5 times smaller than any Angora there. So 1.5 times smaller coat. Okay. DQ for wool below the ankle joint on the front feet. That's kind of hard to memorize, right? Just remember, if it's from your elbow to your toes and you have hairy arms, you're not getting a date and you're not showing a fuzzy line. Okay? Okay. DQ for excessively, you guys are laughing, but you're all like, yeah, I don't want to date a chick with super hairy arms. Good news, none. Okay, DQ for excessively soft or silky coat. That's for some people that are not super into the woolly stuff. They think everything's supposed to be super soft. False. Those things mat like crazy. That's minus unless it's an English Angora. Okay, but these ones are DQ for soft and silky coats. Excessively. Will this be on the test? Probably not. Why? Excessively is your opinion versus my opinion. But these things are for sure. You can't argue a ruler, except some people don't even know how to use one. And you can't argue what's a part of a body. Okay? Remember, crown is only desirable in the standard. We don't even get points for them, these guys. Okay? Ding. American sables, easy enough. Commercial 4-class rabbit. Okay? Now, here is the trick. What color is the brown?
Sepia.
Sepia, right? You need to memorize that this is sepia brown on ears, face, legs. It's not black. It's a certain color, okay? And then these guys DQ for eyes lacking a ruby cast. So that's something important you need to know. If it says what's the eye color supposed to be, and you just click the brown section on the test, F minus, because it has to have a ruby cast. Okay, it says so in the book about rabbits. Rollback fur, important things to remember. The markings are actually shading on this breed. Sepia is the brown shading, ruby cast to the eye. Focus on just this stuff that you're finding, Holly. Focus on that stuff in the bottom. That's where you want to start. Then gain the rest of it. Okay? The Angoras. So, good things about the Angoras. Holly, I'm just going to ask you to click, and then we're going to click back. Okay? So, look at the DQs for the English Angora. DQ for normal fur on the feet. DQ for 2 inches. DQ for excessive coarseness on this one. But I want you to pay attention to these first two. So, all you need to know, and Angoras, ding, go to the next one. The French. DQ for fur on the feet. DQ for under 2 inches. Ding. Uh-oh, did I duplicate one?
No,
there you go. The Giant. DQ for under 2 inches, right? So that 2-inch number, ding. There's very common things. DQ for 2 inches. On a satin Angora, no sheen, not a satin Angora. DQ. Go back to English. So compact. Now, the variety groups are tricky on these ones, okay? So agouti, pointed, white, self-shaded, ticked, wideband. No brokens in the English. Not yet. Okay? Give it time. Okay, they've tried. So, but also you need to kind of know what is acceptable. The Angora color guide's all in there. These guys are kind of different than the other ones. These ones don't have the coarser coats. They're to be softer. DQ for absence of tassels or ear fringes. What are those?
The little tassels on that.
Right, all of this, right?
Yep.
So I don't want you to just study this. I want you to be, if there's something you don't know, go ask someone. That's this part here. They have plain blank ears, like regular ears. F minus, don't register it. And you need to know that for the group. And then wool on the DQ, under 2 feet, absence of bangs of ear tassellings, or excessive coarseness. Good chance, guys. Excessive coarseness, that's what? Opinion based, probably not on the registrar's test. Okay, and we show them in colored and white. And something I think is important, this won't be on the thing unless it says describe the coat of an English Angora and it's whatever the shape. These things are supposed to be a round ball of fluff. We're starting to see flatter ones, but this breed is the only one in the book that says round ball of fluff. I find that important in the thing. Ding. French Angora is commercial. Now, the next ones, pay attention to those body type DQs. So, English Angora is what? Short and compact. Everybody else DQs for round, short bodies. Okay? So just remember, we're English, we're a little short, we're a little compact in the belly. Okay? These guys are not. They DQ for round, short bodies. They're not to be short and they got that commercial body type. These guys, the French, okay? The French, we bought that middle of the country from because they broke apart our country when we did the Louisiana Purchase, right? So they allowed the brokens. Okay, you'll remember that now because I say weird stuff. And then DQ brokens for they have to have the head markings. Okay, and then the ears are heavy trimmed. Heavy trimmings on ears are, so if they have, this has got a lot of kind of woolly coming off of it. The English Angora, if they're naked, DQ. On a French, if they have some, fault. You need to know the difference. DQ for normal fur on the front feet. Number 2. And the other one, now remember the English DQ for excessive coarseness. These guys are the opposite end because we want that abundance of guard here. We DQ for excessively soft, silky, or cottony coats. And they are showed in broken, colored, and whites as well, but they can be broken. Ding. Giants. This is my favorite Angora breed. Commercial, DQ, a similarity, right? Round cavy bodies, F-. They're a commercial rabbit, right? V-shaped, they show in 2 varieties. They're now shown in the chestnut and the ruby-eyed white. A chestnut rabbit should have what color?
Brown.
Brown. See, look, you guys are halfway there. Okay, so DQ for a complete lack of wave to the wool. And if you don't know what that means, it's hard to explain. You need to blow into some Angoras. Okay, I've actually never DQ'd for this in my life. I don't see that as often. DQ for under 2 inches. DQ for the lack of ear tasseling and fringes. And again, DQ for excessively coarse coats. Things you really need to focus on is this and the colors. Chestnuts are brown eyes, whites are pink eyes with ruby red pupils. Bing.
Bryan,
Yeah.
real quick, when they say on the giant,
Go back.
the wave to the wall, are they referring to like the crimp?
Yeah, like the crimp.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
Yep.
All right.
That's just how they explain it in the standard.
Okay.
So the satin Angora here, commercial type, DQ for rounded short bodies. See another similarity there? We can make lists that make sense. A goody, broken, pointed, white, self-shaded, ticked, wideband. But now the satin has something special about it. So what's a breed-specific DQ about the satin? Lack of sheen. That's probably more apt to be on the test than what color are they accepted in, right? Straight and well set on the ears, just straight and well set on the head. And the ears are to be plain or slightly tufted. They're not to be heavy, but it says, we DQ heavily trimmed heads that resemble an English, is what the book says. So you just need to remember that if it looks like a satin and it says this rabbit has all of this, it's losing its breed characteristic, right? Again, under 2 inches of wool, lack of sheen. These are the things we need to know, that they should have clean ears and head, they should resemble an English, and that they should have the sheen is important. Argente bronze, commercial type. So here's some tricks to remembering for this. When you're studying breeds, what makes the breed important is probably going to be things you need to study on the test, right? These guys you DQ, they have any slate surface or cast anywhere. If it says you have an Argent Brun that has a slight slate color to its head, it's a DQ. If it's on the tail, it's a DQ. Slate, Argent Brun, negative. Okay, so know the difference in color, false. Because if it says you have a Argent Brun that lacks chocolate guard hairs, to me, in my head, like, that's the wrong rabbit. Just a fault in this breed. Okay, so you got to know that, and I bolded it because it's one that would make me, if I wasn't sure and I read the test, I'd say F-. That's got to go. Not true, it's just a fault. And extremely dark ears and muzzles are a fault. Uneven color or fading around the cheeks and eyes are a fault. Keep the difference of what's a fault and a DQ. Flyback, lacks chocolate. You need to remember that lacking chocolate guard hairs is a fault. Because to me, in my head, in your head, hopefully, you say if it doesn't have chocolate guard hairs, how the heck is it one of the Argent breeds, right? This breed just says just a fault. NBD, no big deal, right? And then also you need to know slate surface is a DQ. That's super important because those are things that are specific. The Belgian hare. So this is like a beautiful, elegant looking rabbit, right? So if you said the Belgian hare had a bulky, blocky head, would you DQ or fault it? In my head, I'd want to DQ it, right? Like, no, that takes away from what the breed's supposed to be. It's just a fault, so you need to memorize that. They allow that. Faults only for dewlaps. They come in 2 colors, rufous and tan, but you need to remember that the tan comes in black, blue, chocolate, and lilac. They can be any colors of it, right? But this breed, the breed-specific disqualification on this one, is it lack of ticking F minus, okay? And if you haven't really blown into Belgian hair coats or whatever, that might not be something you haven't dealt with them a lot, they haven't noticed, but that's a breed specific and the only one, so there's a good chance you're gonna see it on the test, right? First flyback, know the eye color of a Belgian hare for all these varieties. It is pretty simple. A black rabbit is a Duluth? No.
No.
So what color eye?
Brown.
A chocolate rabbit is a Duluth?
No.
So what color?
Brown.
Tan, blue, Duluth,
Blue,
blue
gray.
gray, lilac, Duluth, blue gray. So very similar. First flyback, but here's the things. So fault for mahogany color. So if it says you have a Belgian hare with a rich mahogany color, in your head you might think, oh yeah, it's a good one. Nope, it's just a fault, but it's also not a DQ, so just notice that. If it says this, it might give you like true, the mahogany color is, and then it would say DQ, fault, desirable. It's not desirable. Okay? So there are questions like that. Like it lists something and it says, what did I just say? Fault, DQ, desirable. You need to know the difference. The Beveren is the body type semi-arch. Another one, DQ for less than 4 3/4 of an ear. So they do have a minimum ear length. Blacks must have a dark brown eye. You DQ any other color. That's, you should remember, black, brown eye, okay? Blues must be blue-gray. DQ for any other color. This breed actually lists it out to DQ for any other color. And then whites, I'm not gonna lie to you, where I sometimes forget, like, which one's the blue-eyed white one, the American or no, the Beveren is the blue-eyed white one. So Beveren, B, blue-eyed white, okay? For rollback, and they ask for under 1 inch or over 2 inches, which means F minus. So it needs to be within this range, so there's no red-eyed whites in the Beveren. You need to remember that, okay? You need to know that it has this weird fur DQ because that's something they can put on the test, and then the ear length. Ding. Blanc de Haut-Totes are the same way. Commercial body types, but this breed has a weird breed DQ that you don't see often, right? They list DQ for mandolin type. Long flat shoulders, and this one's a DQ. Okay, so you need to memorize that. And then color, they have a lot of color DQs, incomplete eye bands, and the nice part about these guys, what I like about this breed is I feel like the DQs make sense. Blanc Haut-Totes, if you have an incomplete eye band, yeah, you should get an F minus. If your eye bands have to be black, no other colors, not to be confused with the dwarf Haut-Totes, who has some color. Different options. DQ any colored spots where it should be white. Duh. DQ any eye color other than brown. Duh. But you will see in these dwarf Haut-Totes, you will find marbled and spots and things in there, right? Their fur, it's rollback, not flyback. So this is a breed that might trick you up. You're thinking commercial, da-da-da. So they could put that on there. What's the fur type? Describe it. It's a rollback coat. Also, a breed-specific importance. So if it says describe the fur of a Blanc de Haut-Totes or whatever, it's important to notice that this breed describes the fur very interestingly. And why I say this, because when I judge them, I don't see this as much, so you don't really think that it's a super breed trait. But that abundance of guard hairs gives a frost sheen. If it says what is a description of the coat or describe the coat, this guard hairs give a frost. You're going to see that there. It sounds weird when you read it on paper, but when you see it, it makes sense. That's a breed characteristic. So much that they DQ for when the guard hairs are not visible. You need to be able to see them. Rollback coats, mandolin body types, know how the specifics of that coat. Ding. I got
On the Beveren, you have fur over an inch,
under.
under.
Oh my gosh, yep. So edit that one. It's supposed to say fur under Yeah, I flipped these around.
Yep.
I worked on this presentation for like 20 some hours ripping apart the standard and I had some people proofread it, but it's okay. Literally just had somebody look at it again before he came here. The blue holature is new. I haven't talked to anybody that's actually had these on their test. So just know their breed specific DQs. And I think some things that are interesting about them that I hope they put on the test, and now it's just me, right? What's a breed characteristic that'll screw people up? What's the color? What do you think the color of a blue holature should be? A lot of people think they're supposed to be this dark blue color. F minus, false. It's a medium blue, resembling the bluing of steel and uniform. That's a specific thing, so I hope that goes on the test so we can keep that in people's minds and stuff, not make the dark ones. Okay, but they have interesting ones. Extremely narrow and long body or narrow chest is a DQ in this one. Which you think in this big long thing, but they put it as a DQ for reasons, right? Makes a lot of sense to me. Dewlaps are not a DQ. The body's to be stocky. You DQ for narrow, long heads. DQ for excessive V in the ear. DQ for less than 3 inches and more than 3/4 of an inch. I am going to give some credit to this breed. I know there's some controversy of their standard or whatever, but what I like about them is they put in DQs to make sure traits about their breed stay there. We get long snipey heads on things, F minus. I hope judges hold true to DQing those kind of rabbits, but in that medium blue, we have all these color DQs, white undercolor, light color on the nose and muzzle, silver and so dark. They put in so many DQs to make sure their breed stays the way it's supposed to be. So these people should really get a good hats off to them. The fur, now, I haven't seen a test with the Czech or heard of a test with the Czech Frosty or blue holature on it, but we have a fur type called slow rollback. So it may ask you to, what's the fur type of them? A slow rollback. DQ for lack of adequate undercoat. So we're even DQing them if their coat is so thin that it flies. Fur that is over 1/2 inch and over 1.5 inches and under 1/2 inch. These are the things we need to remember because I think they're pretty breed specific that would make sense to go on the test. Ding. Petites. Full arch, a breed that we DQ for dewlaps. Now, do you remember the Belgian hare did not DQ for the head things? I always think in my head when I was new that these are just a miniature Belgian hare, right? We DQ for heavy curvature to the skull on these guys. They do care about the head shape a little bit more to keep it as true to their breed as they can. DQ for ears over 2 3/4. So here's their varieties. What you need to remember is Himalayans, all 4 colors. Tortoiseshells, all 4 colors. Otters, all 4 colors. So you know that they accept it all, right? And then you DQ for white surface on the bellies of tortoiseshells or white underside the tail. That's pretty specific that's in there, right? Then if it's describe the fur on it, it needs to be flyback. Also, I think it's interesting because this is one of the only breeds that describes fur this way, so it is a very big breed characteristic. We use the word sleek, smooth, and silky texture. To me, that's pretty specific about the fur. So that's something we might see to make sure that we know that this is the fur type that they're supposed to have. A flyback that is sleek, smooth, and silky in texture. So know that fur description, know that there's no dewlap, know that they have a maximum ear length. Ding! Cals, here's a tricky one. Any color besides black is a fault. So if you have a blue pointed cal on your table, it's just a fault. If you have a chocolate pointed cal on your table, it's just a fault because they say any color besides black is a fault. However, tan pattern rabbits, F minus. Okay, so what you're going to notice is in cals, you'll see ear lacing on the ears, you'll see lacing in the nostrils, you'll see a white underside of the tail. They won't have great leg color, right? That's a DQ. We call those Martinized cals, and they're more common than you think. Okay. Also DQ smut on any usable portion of the pelt. So I struggle for a lot, like what is usable, right? Because I don't butcher rabbits and actually use the pelt. But I kind of put in my group chat of my friends, and we agree that including the belly is part of that usable portion, right? However, when I judge best in shows fairly frequently, and I know there's another judge in the room and it's whatever, it's not frequently. I would say I always like turn the rabbit over and I'm like, oh, interesting. So then I get like, okay, there's some there. Interesting. Fur is flyback, so we DQ for smut, flyback fur, any other color is only a fault. Because if you think of a cow, what color do you think?
Black and white.
Right.
White with black.
So if you're like,
real quick, Holly, I've got a question.
Uh-oh.
It says DQ smut, flyback fur, but you have under fur, flyback.
Right, so DQ the smut.
Okay.
You need to know that it has flyback fur. And sorry, I'm listening to, these are the things you need to remember. Sorry, okay.
Yeah.
I see why it looks
Yeah.
confusing, but it means DQ the smut. Remember it has flyback fur. Remember any other colors of fall. One of the best breeds in our book about rabbits, the Champagne, commercial. So something that is important, I think, is that you need to know that they should have a slight taper, okay? Because that might come up in a body description. If we talk about the body and it describes a slight taper, that could be something that goes on the test, because that's pretty, that's one of those ideal things with our bodies that makes us different. The color is bluish white. The undercolor is a dark slate blue. That's important to know. It's not a black undercolor. It's a dark slate blue. That's pretty, so to me, most people think it's got this black undercolor. Even I listen to judges that judge the champagnes, they're like, good black undercolor. I'm like, it's a dark slate blue. So that could be something that's tricky on the test if it's asked, right? Now, fault for lack of jet black guard hairs, okay? For a lack of them, faded undercolor, too dark or too light are just faults. And the fur is flyback. Things you need to remember at the bottom. Ding. Checker giants, ones that have body DQs, ear length DQs, 5 3/4, DQ'd for colored toenails. Here's a tricky thing about a checker giant. A white spot in the ear, what would you do with it?
DQ.
False. Their standard says white spots on the ears and white runnings up the ears are just false. Okay? I actually learned that one the hard way when, anyways. Okay, so, might have done it. DQ for mix of 3 colors, black, blue, and white on one rabbit, F-. Marking connections, you need to know that. Markings don't need to touch. More than one stray head spot on the mid of the mid body, which is the middle of the rabbit, right? No spots up here. Of the body, and stray spots within 1 inch of the spine. So if we're getting up there, right? DQ for a missing loin marking, they gotta have them. DQ double cheek spots or missing spots on either side, so they gotta have those head markings to them. And DQ for more than one stray head marking, that's important. If it has one, it's just a fault. More than one, F-. And their fur is described as short and dense. Why I put that on there is you don't see that commonly on the checker giant. You usually see a longer coat, so it's interesting that that's how they describe things. Ding. So you have the important things. Now we're going to move into the chinchilla breeds. I'm going to put them all together for you. And I think for me to be able to teach you about chinchillas, you have to know the coat structure of the chinchilla, right? So we have a slate blue undercolor, a light pearl band, a narrow black, here, it helps me. A slate blue undercolor, you see a narrow light pearl band, a narrow black band, a very light band, and if you had really good eyes, you see the wavy black ticking at the top. So how many different colors are on a chinchilla color? 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need to memorize that. Ding! So then let's look at the chinchillas. You have the American, the standard, and the giant. Now the American is a commercial rabbit, also DQs for mandolin body type. If they have a long shoulder, they get this long style body, that's a DQable rabbit. We DQ for hind legs, lacking blue undercolor. Pretty specific, huh? Things we should know. DQ for solid white spots, extremely light or dark, mixed brown patches, extreme brown is tinted color, lack of light pearl eye circles. How I say this is just remember in the chinchilla breeds, if it doesn't match those 5 colors we talked about, and it really distorts it,
Don't belong there.
it doesn't belong. So here's the tricky part with these chins. Brown, blue, gray, or marble dyes. Long enough pink, roll with it. Okay? Furs roll back. They have a fur length of 1 1/8 of inch, 1 3/8 of inch. Even though it's listed in the book, it's important to say that anything outside of it's just a fault. Okay? Because there will be fur, those measurement questions that come up. Why I think it's odd personally, and remember, my things are not endorsed by the ARBA. Who is pulling out a ruler at the rabbit shows and going 1 1/8 inch?
2/8 of an inch and you're done.
Right, I sometimes I wonder. And then fault for showing a tendency to turn wool, harshy, or wiry. I feel like that's important to say because if I felt like, in my personal opinion, if it had a coat was feeling wool or, it's not supposed to say harshy, it's supposed to be harsh, toward wool, I'd want to DQ it. And this breed is just a fault. Kind of weird to me, but it is what it is. So, right, but these are things that like when you're trying to rule things out in your head when you read the test, you would be like, oh, yeah, DQ, false, okay? Giants, so now remember the American, long shoulders, bad. The giant, semi-arch, okay, good, right? Big rabbit. But things that are gonna trick you up when you try to rule things out is that DQs for extremely short or long and racy body, okay? So that what I like about it is it's telling you we don't want them long and flat and narrow, but we don't want them short and cavy. I like it. Okay? DQ for overly large, double or side carried dewlap. Kind of an odd DQ. DQ for the hind leg color, the blue hind leg colors lacking blue undercolor. Kind of important, right? Okay, but why I write this down is I don't think you'll see very many judges that flip these things over and blue into that leg color. So you don't think of that as a DQ because it's not a common one. We don't see it happening on the tables as often, right? Eyes, anything but pink rolls, baby. I need to talk faster.
It's 5:45.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Fur is flyback, and then know the body DQs. So do you see here the gist of the different the PowerPoint, right? Holly, can you? So you can probably read through the other rabbit ones when you go to study, because I made you study cards for every single breed in the book about rabbits. Now go to Harlequins. I've also made you do this chart because Harlequin eye color is tricky as tricky, okay? And if you want, I'm not making super promises that I'll remember, but if you tell me when I'm just hanging out this weekend, like, hey, could you share the view version of your PowerPoint so I can have it in color, I would do that. Just don't, if I'm looking crabby this weekend, don't ask me, okay? Ask me at a different time because I can do it on my phone. But black, Japanese magpie, eye color, see the difference? How it's important. This is something you really need to know if you're going to register the rabbits. Okay, keep going. Himalayans, Holland Loppers, no Silver Martins, Jersey Woolies, keep going. So you have all of these cards for you. For every, go back to the last one. So, go, forward. Okay, I put things in that are important that if I think that this is something that you need to realize, just know, black rabbits, red rabbits, if it is not dilute, it's probably a good chance. If you're not sure, click brown eye if it's not dilute. If it's dilute, like smoke pearl blue, click blue on gray. It'll help you get through the test. Rachel?
Can I give you an idea / suggestion? If you're thinking about doing a registrar license, get this from him. And someone gave me a set of PowerPoint slides that they printed out as photos and used them as flashcards.
You got that bougie money you're going to spend at
I
the
didn't do
Walgreens
it.
printing
Someone-
all them photos.
No,
You got that Carl Linus
someone
money.
gave it to me. Miranda
Oh.
Tolsma gave it to me.
She's
So,
Oh, I miss her. Okay, keep going.
well,
And then we'll get to the last one. So each of these breeds, these are the things, if you keep going, okay, so some notes. So I will say, I'm not promising you because I don't know how you study or how your brain works. If you narrow your things down to just studying what's in this PowerPoint, you are gonna get the 70. I promise you that, okay? If there's a question about breeds that require to measure ear length when measuring, the answer is any breed with an ear length DQ. So it might say which breeds disqualify for 5 3/4, or if it's an ear question, and it's got breeds listed, pick the one with an ear length DQ. It's asking you a weird thing, narrow it out, okay? So when you're registering, you must always weigh the animal when registering, okay? Must always. But, because that's when you register rabbits, that's the process, but not something you're ever going to need for the test. It's in the book. You don't need to memorize it. You can never register an underweight animal. So there's going to be questions at the beginning that say you have a rabbit that is a 6'8", whatever, but it doesn't make the senior weight, but it's 6'8", could you still register it? No. If there's anything about an underweight, the answer is no. It's commercial. If it's a 6'8" animal and it meets all the senior requirements, thumbs up. But if it doesn't, if it's 6'8" makes the 6'8" requirement, too bad. It's got to make the senior ones. A registrar can refuse a rabbit to register it for any reason. That's something you need to know because that's a big rule that will probably be on the test, right? A rabbit with any DQ may not be registered. These are general things that you need to think about when you're taking it. And a 6-class breeder rabbit must meet senior weight requirements if it's over 6 months old. And at the very front of the book, not the very front, there's this part that says know your general DQs. You need to know the difference in those, because they are on the test. General DQs are in there, and you need to know about them. Click. Okay, I'm sorry, I really made a presentation that could go like 2 hours, because my goal was like, I'm gonna teach them, and then hopefully they'll all order the registrar's test, study this, and then go home and pass the test, and I won't have to be begging people to register at shows anymore. But again, maybe we'll do this at a different time when I give myself 2 hours to talk. Any questions? Hopefully you find this super helpful, and then let me know if you'd like to take it, if you would like to get the colored version from my slideshow.
I want
But
you to do
these
a
cards-
page one.
What?
I want you to do a page one.